I guess I don't know. I guess just to kind of keep folks up to date on what we're talking about here, for those of you who aren't more esoterically inclined. I don't know, just to kind of give a metaphor here, and a good Gnostic one at that. I think a good allusion to what we're discussing is the film The Matrix. Right? We live in this false reality that we have created for ourselves based off information that we have taken in, that we just assume is reality, right? But within ourselves, if we choose to take that route, there is this truer reality that, is not found in this delusional sense of sensation that's limited to this physical space, right?
Yeah.
And similar to, once Neo's broken out of the Matrix, he's like doing all these kung fu and like downloading these programs into himself. He's downloading certain practices or certain perceptions that allow him to master that delusional reality, so you can like refit or reprogram that to where it's beneficial for your growth.
Yes, exactly. It's, yeah, well put.
So I guess, I guess I don't know if we're going to be breaking people out of the matrix, so quote unquote. I guess what would be that red pill moment? Because I don't know, from a Jungian perspective, the first stages of that individuation process is going to be identifying the shadow. Now, just to kind of give people a little bit of background. Jung himself, his process of individuation was finding a psycho spiritual essence to yourself, right? And one of the things he theorized is that primarily when we're in our adolescence, we kind of jump from social group to social group. We are experimenting with different facets of who we are, right? And as we experience these different facets of ourselves, we find, by experiencing those different aspects of ourselves, what is not socially acceptable with different types of people, and we internalize that. So a lot of the things that we have about ourselves, that we believe about ourselves, isn't necessarily true because we have been repressing the darker aspects, right? That sense of emptiness or dread that we can't find through these interactions, whatever the case may be. So one of Jung's first stages in that individuation process is being able to acknowledge that there is this shadow half, this repressed half of ourselves that we, have been ignoring, that we've allowed. As we ignore it, we get this sense of delusion about who we are, right? Whether it's an enamored self, self-importance, that sort of a thing. And I feel like when we ignore that shadow, that's where that I am the center of this reality and all of this is for me comes in. And when and I just facing that shadow and just facing all these things we don't want to accept about ourselves, I mean, that's a painful process. That's a very painful process, and I just don't think that many people are really willing to engage in that kind of dark night of the soul.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. So, yeah, and I mean, I think the Jungian path is only one example of a path. So, there are other paths that don't involve like such, you know, uh, wrestling with the shadow in that way. The I think the crux of it though is it doesn't really matter what path you take. If you want to change and grow as a person, it requires work. And that work can be, psychological, it can be physical, it can be, meditative, it can be a combination of all of these. So it really depends on the person and the path they take, but they're going to work. Anyone who's really changed in an authentic way has earned it, and none of us are any different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when it comes to like that work aspect of it, then I mean, how do you? I don't want to say train yourself because it's not the right word. How do you prepare yourself for that kind of hard spiritual path? How do you prepare yourself to kind of delve into those psychological issues that you don't necessarily feel that you may be ready to face? Because I mean, I don't think anybody is truly ever ready to embark on that path, but it is I mean, there's got to be ways that you can kind of condition yourself to be more acceptable to, kind of questioning your own reality, questioning your own perceptions, and
Yeah.
ultimately admitting that you're, maybe wrong.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think the Buddhist path in general does a good job of this in terms of presenting the tools for this sort of thing. Like they have this idea of the four thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma. The first one is a precious human birth. So you contemplate how rare and fortunate you are to be born as a human being in a world where there's lots of humans, but we're not even the, most numerous of species on the planet. Like there's insects and all kinds of things. Like there's many types of life, sort of plant life, fungus, like, but being born a human, we can walk upright, we can think, we have a brain, we can communicate with each other. We have the ability to create and build things. So it's very fortunate in that respect. And that, uh, if you think about all of the beings and that didn't, manage to be born as a human, you're incredibly lucky. So I think that's, the first one. And you have the others in terms of like the idea of impermanence, that nothing lasts forever. Nothing even lasts that long at all. Um, so there's that. And so it's and that goes back to the whole sort of idea that everything's empty as well, because you can't really find any true source of joy without the seed of falling back, as they say, in a situation where everything's impermanent. Like where are you going to find your joy? What is it that lasts forever? There's nothing. So that there's something else to contemplate. Then they have this idea of karma, which you could think of it simply as like the law of cause and effect. Like you
Hmm.
simply have, you go through life, you do things, they have effects, and then you have to bear the consequences of your actions. And no matter who we are in this world, we all do things that cause us to suffer as a consequence. Inevitably, it's just the way it works. So there's that as well. And then finally, you have this idea of like, because of the karma, everyone is suffering to some greater or lesser extent, no matter who they are, rich or poor, healthy, sick, wise, simple. It doesn't make any difference. Um, and that suffering won't ever stop until we consciously make an effort to end it. So, thinking and considering and contemplating these thoughts should give somebody a really good foundation for then, going further in spiritual practice in terms of being willing to do all of the hard work. Because when you look back and you see these four contemplations, it's like, well, I have no reason to rest or to procrastinate. Everyone's suffering. If I don't do something about this, it's never going to change. and like there's just no reason not to do it at that point, because there's only one answer in this sort of presentation, at least. But ultimately, there is only one answer in actuality, which is spiritual practice.